This is a video for AQA Further Pure Mathematics. Algebra and Graphs section 4.1, which looks at graphs of y equals mod f of x. Well, to find the modulus or absolute value of a number, we ignore any negative signs. So, for example, the modulus of 3 would just be equal to 3. Whereas the modulus of negative 5 would be equal to 5. On a calculator, the modulus is often denoted by abs. So make sure you can find this on your calculator. Functions are sometimes positive and sometimes negative. So if we consider the function f of x is equal to x minus 2, then the modulus of x minus 2, well, it will be equal to x minus 2 itself if x is bigger than or equal to 2. But we then have to take negative of that if x minus 2 is less than 0. So therefore x is less than 2. So for a function, we have to consider when is the function positive and when is it negative, so that we can calculate the absolute value or the modulus of the function. So the modulus of a number and a function are defined in this way. Modulus of x is equal to x for any value of x which is greater than or equal to 0, but equal to negative x for x less than 0. Similarly, the modulus of f of x, a function, is equal to f of x itself if the function is greater than or equal to 0, but negative of the function when the function is less than 0. This gives us a way then of considering what the graphs of functions look like. To sketch the graph of y equals mod x minus 4, we first of all consider the graph of y equals x minus 4, which is shown here as the green dotted line. Obviously it goes through 4 on and negative 4 on the axes. The portion which is below the x-axis here is going to be negative. So to find the modulus function, we need to make that positive. So it's reflected back in to the above the x-axis. So it goes into the positive portion of y. Considering that algebraically, then we can say then when x is greater than or equal to 4, then x minus 4 is greater than or equal to 0. And therefore, the modulus of x minus 4 will just be equal to x minus 4 itself. So that we have the modulus in this portion here. But for values of x which are less than 4, x minus 4 must be less than 0, and therefore the modulus of x minus 4 will be negative of the function x minus 4. In other words, we have this reflected part of the graph. So just in summary, for any function then, we first of all consider the function itself. And if we want to look at the modulus, we decide when is the graph positive, or when is the function positive, and that will then stay the same for the modulus function on its graph. But if the function becomes negative, then to get the modulus function, it's reflected back into the positive portion by reflecting in the x-axis. Here's a more general function then, which has been drawn. The purple line here is just a function f of x. You don't actually need to know exactly what the function is to be able to calculate or to be able to draw the modulus function, because all we need to do is look at the negative portions and reflect them in the x-axis. So here we've got a reflection of that portion in the x-axis, and then a reflection of this portion below -1. The other parts are exactly the same, so y equals mod f of x is given by the dotted line which comes down here. It reflects in the portions where the function itself is below the x-axis, but otherwise is exactly the same. Well, that completes this video. In the next one, we'll be looking at inequalities involving moduli functions.